5 gym changes that I've tweaked or reversed on to help me feel, look, and perform better at 48 than 28. Want to know what they are? Stick around. So overall, there's 5 really big changes that either I've started doing more consistently or doing at all, or that I've completely 180'd and reversed my take on when it comes to the gym, based on just modern exercise science and just based on results that I've been getting. Which now, looking back, I'm like, man, I wish we knew some of this or had tried some of this back when I was 28, but hey, can't go back in time. All we can do is the best with the time we have. So let's get to it. So number 1 is tracking. Now, because I come from a CrossFit background and martial arts background, there wasn't a lot of tracking and really focusing on a program. In fact, there was a lot of what I call exercise and not training, which again, if you watch my other video, which is about the 6 things that have changed in my nutrition, for the longest time, for instance, I was convinced that creatine doesn't work for me till I realized, no, I just wasn't working with creatine. But that's besides the point. Go watch that video. But tracking has been very helpful, and I track everything. And I'm pretty detailed in my tracking now. So I'll track the exercises. I make lines if it's a superset. If I'm using a leg press, for instance, I go to 2 different gyms. So if I go to the one gym and it has the red leg press, I'll write red leg press and the weight. If I go to the other one, I'll write the weight on that, because they both have different starting points. They're very different machines. So I make sure that I just don't write leg press with X amount of weight, because that is going to be wrong if I go to the other gym. For instance, even on, like, say, bicep curls, and I find a position that, okay, this feels really good for the stretch on the cables, and I will mark down that number in which machine I'm using. So guys, really tracking everything you do in the gym, from your weights to your reps. Track your time, by the way, that you're breaking between sets. Make sure it's long enough, and even tracking and making some notes about the individual machines or the individual levels, whatever it is you're doing, is going to make a really big difference. Now, number 2 is yoga. Now, I will say straight up that I used to make fun of yoga people. I'm from Vancouver. Vancouver people, they're yoga insane. I don't know if there's so much now, but a while back there, I think we were the biggest place doing yoga outside of India. And one could even argue more so, because in fact, a lot of people in India don't actually do yoga, but that's besides the point. I've now got into yoga. I've been to India twice to study and learn more about yoga and Ayurvedic medicine. And yoga for me has made a gigantic change in my life. And in fact, now it's part of all my transformation challenges, including my Hella Lean to Halloween 21-day spectacular body transformation challenge that comes out every single October. And you can register for that anytime from September 1st up to October the 9th. Going back though, yoga is something that I have everybody do, and it's really helped me with my stress. It's helped me with my breathing. It's helped me with my flexibility. And yes, you need to worry about your flexibility over 40. And it's helped with my mobility. It's also a really great form of isometric exercise, particularly what they call yielding isometric exercise. It's really good at helping strengthen joints in certain angles. So I would seriously suggest, if you're a guy and you're like, no, I'm not into yoga, you become a yoga guy, okay? And I'll tell you this too, sometimes there's some really hot girls in yoga classes, and I've hooked up with more than my share of hot yoga girls in yoga classes. Of course, that was before I was married. There's even been the odd yoga teacher or 2, so try some yoga. Number 3 is peak contraction for peak stretch. Now, for the longest time in the literature and practice, everybody, including myself, was all about the peak contraction. Now, to put that in simple terms, let's say you're doing a bicep curl. I'm just going to use a bicep curl. That is when you get to the top of the bicep curl and you're really going to squeeze that contraction, that at the top of the movement. Even Schwarzenegger talks about it, right? He's to visualize the mountains and, all that sort of stuff. Well, science has shown now that the contraction is not nearly as important as the really deep stretch. So something that I've really 180'd on is, I'm not saying not to do the contraction. There's 3 phases of a movement, okay, when you're exercising. There's the stretched position, there's the contracted position, and then of course you have the eccentric, the concentric, the isometric portion. All of them are important. So for me though, really focusing on getting into really deep stretches, which is why I don't use a lot of barbells anymore. I'm using a lot more dumbbells because they allow me to get in deep positions. So for instance, where a barbell stops you right about here because your chest gets in the way, dumbbells, you can really go into that extra deep stretch. So for a bicep curl, it's something like using, say, an incline bench where you're leaning back, so you get that arm goes a little bit behind you, so your elbow is not just beside you like in a traditional dumbbell curl standing. It's actually a little bit behind you, which gives you, again, just a little more stretch to the bicep, and then bringing it, again, all the way up to contraction, but then letting it go back and really stretching out at the bottom. And so I've made sure to really add a lot of deficit lifts into my lifting to really make sure that I'm getting the peak stretch on everything from my lunges to my biceps to my chest to my lats. Number 4 is really focusing on ab work, and that's not the same thing as core work. Really making sure that I am doing things to contract my abs. That means bringing my chest to my pelvis or bringing my pelvis up to my chest. For the longest time, guys, like I said, I was into CrossFit. I was a big believer, and I was quoted, you can quote me saying, all you need to do is the big compound movements to build a strong core, yada, yada, yada. And that is very true, but it's not the way that you get and build abs, particularly abs at higher body fat percentages. And yes, you can have abs at 17 and 18% body fat. You don't need the 10% that all the fitness goof-offs are telling you on YouTube right now. Trust me, I got entire videos on that. Go watch them. But really focusing on doing really good abdominal work to grow the thickness and the size of the abdominal muscles to get those deeper valleys and peaks. Because here's the thing, if you got a layer of body fat, say over top, and this is your abs, let's say they're flat like that, right? You can lose all the body fat you want, but you're not going to have abs. But when you start to develop them and you start to build them, so you have these peaks and these valleys, your body fat is going to contour to that, and you'll be able to see your abs at even slightly higher body fat percentages. So making sure now that I'm doing abs like 4 days a week, and not just half-ass abs, a few floppy sit-ups and your butterfly like you do in CrossFit where it's all arms and actually no abs, but really focusing on really proper ab work using, again, progressive overload. And finally, number 5 is using tools such as straps and foot wedges and belts. For the longest time, guys, I was very anti a lot of tools. Again, going back to my functional fitnessy sort of days. But now I use straps on almost any pulling exercise. In fact, I go out of my way a lot to go, how can I actually not use my grip on this particular exercise? So how can I do something so I really hit the lats and exhaust them before my fingers exhaust? Not saying to not do grip exercises, they're important, but by adding in some straps, you are going to be able to lift heavier weight, or you're going to be able to do more reps, if not both. Adding things like wedges under my feet really helped me, again, get that really deep stretch. So just with my, to be honest, still somewhat limited mobility on the lower half of my body allows me to get into that really deep stretch, which is really, improve my knee strength and actually improve I never had knee pain, but it's just actually really helped my knees just feel stronger and feel better. And it's also just been helping me actually started to add some size and some strength to my lower body by making sure I get into these really deep stretches, and I do that by using certain tools. I'll also use a belt a little more often than I used to as well. Again, only using on really heavy lifts like squats and deadlifts, but the one time I did hurt my back is because why? Well, I wasn't using a belt when I should have on a 1 rep max. Now, I'll add in a bonus one here, partials. I now do a lot more partial reps. Now, there's a right way and a wrong way to do partial reps for the most part. A lot of times, we'll just bench press. A lot of times, this is what people do for partials, right? From the top, halfway. That, guys, is the better part of doing nothing. No, what I'll do now is when I'm done and I've reached technical failure, I'll come down, hold that nice deep stretch, and I'll do a maybe halfway up and back down. Hold the stretch for 1 or 2 seconds, halfway up and back down. I'm adding in, we talked about it earlier, but adding in those lengthened partials when you are done and you cannot perform any full reps anymore. So doing some half reps, but from the proper position, is going to be a game changer, especially if you've been training for a long time and maybe your muscle growth, like everything else, is slowed down. That's going to really help you get some of those newbie gains right back. So there you go, guys. Those are the 5/6 things that I've changed, tweaked, or completely reversed on in the gym. Let me know, are you going to try any of them? Are you doing any of them? What would you add to this list? Let me know in the comments below. And of course, follow me next time to live leaner, stronger, longer, and of course, a hell of a lot better. Talk to you again soon. Hey guys, thanks for watching. And if you like this video, make sure you check out this one right here. And when you're at the gym, driving, out on a walk or run, and you want to hear lots more great content put in your ears, make sure to check out my Barbells to Buddhas podcast on your favorite podcast app.